Wife in emotional affair with female coworker. So, my wife started a new job in September. There was a lot of work for her to come up to speed on things. This entailed staying late, usually one night a week. She told me she was staying late working with a coworker, and I didn't think much of it because it was a woman. Then she decided she would get dinner with this person before they started their late night work. Again, no alarm bells. Then it was drinks after working, just the two of them. Now this made me wonder, since my wife doesn't really drink and usually likes to get to bed early. During the last several weeks, my wife started talking about this person all the time. What a hoot she was, how much fun she was to be around. She also was becoming very short-tempered with both me and our 5-year-old son. I basically was not even getting eye contact from her, and she didn't so much as want to sit and eat or watch a movie with me. Now my wife can be very short-tempered. When my son or I upset her, even over something trivial, she will say, I never wanted any of this. I wanted to live by myself with a dog. These moments would usually pass and I understood it was something she did, although I told her it upset me. I think it was this growing fantasy of escaping with this woman that was causing her to be short with me and our son. About this time, curiosity got the better of me and I checked my wife's phone. There were hundreds of messages, mostly about work stuff, but also things like miss you, love you, etc. Photos of the woman going about her daily activities and so forth. I questioned my wife about it and told her I thought it was strange. She told me it is how women communicate. Then she got angry that I read her messages. I noticed after that there were obvious deletions and texts going back and forth. Again, curiosity got the better of me, so I devised a method of tracking her when she had her next late work night. Now at this time I had really let my wife know that the situation was making me uncomfortable, that I felt ignored and that she was obsessing over this woman. She told me I was ridiculous but did make a brief effort to be nicer to me. Now this woman invited herself to our son's birthday party, at least that's what my wife said. And I told her this made me really uncomfortable and was really inappropriate. It was a small gathering. Now this woman is pushing 50 while my wife is 36. This woman has 2 older children and a husband. So there was no reason for her to be at the party. So, I know that my wife stayed at work, went for a drink and then went, drumroll, to a vacant parking lot for about half an hour. At this point I lost it, accused her of cheating and said, how can you explain that she claims she wanted to tell the woman not to come to the party because I felt uncomfortable? This is where my BS detector went off. Over the last few days, I kept telling her how uncomfortable I am with all the constant texting and spending time together. Then she locked her phone. Yesterday was a weird day. She told me she loved me several times, even cuddled with me, but the issue of this woman kept coming up. Now I was in the full press for the truth. I pushed and pushed, specifically about how can you explain being in a parking lot. Finally, I told her I knew what was going on because I found a way to recover her messages. I hadn't, and that the messages contained declarations of love for each other. I said, tell me the truth or I am sending this to her husband. Then she blurted out I'm in love with her and now claims that what happened in the car is that they were talking about the birthday party and the woman said, yeah, that would be hard to explain. I would have to tell them I'm in love with you, to which my wife reciprocated. Again, this is her story, and while I have doubts, I think it may well be the truth, since the floodgates of truth opened up when I threatened to expose the text to the woman's husband. Things got a little ugly here, as my wife basically kept insisting we are friends and co-workers and I am not going to stop seeing her. I said, yes, you have to see her at work, but you shouldn't be spending time together alone outside of work hours. This relationship is not appropriate. This talking circle went around for a while and then I kind of snapped and said, look, either continue with this and I am telling her family, our parents, your friends, your boss, or end this relationship and come to counseling with me. Here is where she finally started to cry, only once the prospect of not continuing this relationship continued. She told me I was a control freak, that I had monitored her and tricked her into telling me the truth. Not her exact words, but yes. She was mad I tricked her into divulging the truth. She was getting really emotional and I said, should we get this woman on the phone and have a chat? Finally, I told my wife she should probably go talk to her because she was getting really angry and frankly, I was a little scared. Again, she has a temper. I was expecting my wife to be gone a long time, but she was only gone about an hour. Came back, said they are not continuing, although all they did was acknowledge their feelings before and not act physically on them. According to my wife, it seems this woman does not want her family finding out and that they are going to stop seeing each other after work. Oh, and I am a psycho control freak. She won't live in this prison with me anymore and she will go to counseling only as a means to find out how to proceed in the divorce process. This all happened last Sunday night. Now today she is still extremely angry and not at all remorseful. Through emails, of which I have tried to take the high road and not be angry, so basically 2 weeks ago, at least when I noticed it, I noticed my wife shining up like a schoolgirl in love when she talked about this woman. Unending texting. With a big lovesick smile on her face, gave her ample warning that I was suspicious. Was lied to and finally had to resort to some less than honorable means to get the truth. This forum was helpful in that I knew I wanted to act quickly. Strangely, when my wife said, "I am in love with her," I felt a weight had lifted off my chest because not only was she denying it, but she was also basically trying to convince me I was going insane for even questioning her and saying, "I feel sorry for you that you have such unfounded anxiety." Now I know a lot of people would say to leave her, but she is a good mother for the most part, and I truly believe that staying together is the best for me, my wife, and especially our son. But it looks like I may be dragged through the divorce ringer, which I am not looking forward to. Comments. Just because your wife is having an affair with another woman, it is no different than if it were with a man. Read all you can hear about infidelity and plan your actions, especially the note about "let them go." If I were you, I would demand NC, have your wife quit her job. As NC tell the other woman's husband. He deserves to know and will be another set of eyes on the situation. Your wife is still in the fog, just has taken it underground. Then ask yourself, if your son were to come to you in this situation, what would you tell him? What are you showing him by sticking around and being a doormat? Do you really think the best situation for a child is living in a home where his mother is having an affair with another married woman, while his father sits intimidated in the corner? Get a pair, be a man, he deserves this from his father. Your wife is lying. You do not go to a parking lot in a car for at least a half an hour to tell her not to come to the birthday party. You both don't tell each other that they are in love with each other with at least kissing. Your wife is playing you for a fool. It would be no different if the other person was a man. You need to 1. Tell the other woman's husband immediately. If the roles were reversed, wouldn't you want him to have told you? 2. Expose this to her family. 3. See a lawyer to understand your options. 4. Your wife's temper is a form of emotional abuse toward you, and it is quite telling that you are afraid of her when she gets angry. This is no way to live a life. 5. Your wife by her actions shows she has very little respect for you. If you do not respect yourself, then who will? OP responds, "Whoa, stings a little when reality slaps you in the face. But thanks, because I think I needed it. I am still willing to reconcile. Yes, at a minimum there had to be kissing. I think you are right. I do want to reconcile for the sake of our child. I think the next several days will be very telling. You struck a nerve with the temper, because that is something I have been dealing with for a long time. My wife, when angry, can be extremely hurtful and will try to say whatever she can to make you feel bad about yourself. I can't even express how skillful she is at doing this. Man, this reality is coming down heavy on me. It is hard to imagine not living with my child. I am terrified she will turn him against me without me there every day. She has never questioned my parenting. If I do end up having to expose this, assuming they continue, I feel like I would need some real evidence. Any suggestions? This kind of sucks, but the reason I am here is for objectivity. No thoughts on possible reconciliation. 7 years of marriage, and I do believe this is the first instance, although I could always be wrong. Normally it was straight to work and straight home, not a lot of this extra time that I have seen in the last few weeks. So yes, I know divorce is an option, but still feel like reconciliation should be an option. First, there needs to be remorse from her, which I have not seen yet. Yes, I am in a fog. I admit I am deathly afraid of being alone and afraid of losing contact with my child. I was a bachelor into my early 30s, now 40, and it did start to get lonely. But yes, it seems maybe I am kidding myself. I just know all of the stats about broken homes, etc. My child is my life. We have a big trip coming up end of December that has been planned for months. Wife now says, via email, no matter what, can't ruin trip for child. She now also says she doesn't want counseling after all, even to just ask for divorce. She said wait until January and reassess. No way in hell I am going to sit around for 2 months while she cheats because she thinks she can hold our family trip hostage. I just checked, and in my state the filing process takes 90+ days. I found an attorney supposedly specializing in helping men. Seems like the plan now is to get all my ducks in a row and see what happens. She thinks I would never divorce her, but I know what remorse looks like and I haven't seen it. She may not have cheated before, but if I let it slide, I know I am only setting myself up for future heartbreak. Also, I believe quick action is the way to go. Lawyer up first, be decisive, etc. I will need to quell any desire for confrontation if I uncover more, and hold it until everything else is lined up. Lawyer. VAR, email addresses of contacts, etc. Again, still hoping she will have an epiphany, in which case I agree about enforcing NC, but she still doesn't seem to me like she thinks she has done anything wrong. Quick update. Was doing the 180, thought it was working. Cheating B kept trying to contact me. I thought tonight would be a good night to go visit with one of my buddies and get some takeout. Multiple texts basically asking where I was. All went ignored. Maybe she is getting a taste of her own medicine, I thought. Got back when she would normally be in bed. She was actually waiting up for me, demanding to know where I was. I said start telling the truth and I will do the same. Cheating B went apoplectic, demanding to know where I was. Finally, tell me where you over at OW's house. The hell I thought, weird question. I refused to answer. I said she needs to call in sick on Friday so we can go to a counselor. She has one shot to tell the truth. Only so I can lay things out without her going completely ape. I have a pretty good amount of evidence. We'll get into it later. But would like to get more in the next couple of days if I can. Cheating B was only concerned that I was exposing her. Which is why she wants to know so desperately where I was. I could have been out with 40 women and I don't think she would have cared as long as I wasn't exposing her. I think that maybe she couldn't text the older cheating B to find out if I was there. Weird. In any case, I am pretty sure the OW will get bored of my wife's antics in a few months. As for me, barring some kind of divine intervention, I don't see how this is salvageable. I gave her warning I was uncomfortable. She continued. I busted her and forced her to admit she was in love and we are still friends and I will not stop seeing her. Yeah, okay. Disrespect me and insult my intelligence at the same time. Dealing with betrayal is bad enough. A normal person will feel shame and remorse if caught in such despicable behavior. Her only thoughts are what do I need to do to continue in relationship with OW. It is also transparent. Right now, the anger is masking some of the hurt I know will come, but this was not my doing. She can try to blame me all she wants, but she was given multiple chances to acknowledge her deceit and show remorse and she refused them all. A broken home sucks, it really does, but I was dealing with the anger outbursts and emotional abuse and tolerating it for the sake of the family. But the blatant infidelity to the point of not caring about me or my child is just too far. It is hard to wait. I need a couple more days for the exposure to work best. I kind of lost it once I got home and hope I didn't tip my hand. I can't help how I feel. Oh no. Can you also not control your actions, or are they being driven by some unknown force? For just a second tonight, I thought she was concerned about me, wondering if I was falling off a bar stool somewhere or with another woman. In the end, she was only concerned that I was exposing her precious comments. The blame shift is huge and you're doing well to take the blows, my friend. You are right in your assumption about her paranoia regarding where you are, who you're with and what you are doing. It might be that this 180 is starting to work. The secret, if you are really upsetting her apple cart, she is starting not to be able to plan, work out where you could pop up and what you're planning. In the past, she has to a degree been the controller. That has shifted, and because she has cheated, she is envisaging you doing similar. The threat to disclose must be kept real. It's the only weapon you have at this time. By keeping her unbalanced, she is starting to play her own mind movies about what you're likely to do next. Keep your planning to yourself. Play the game she dislikes and this will continue to force her hand. You don't need to be unfaithful, but you do need to be careful. Going dark clearly is hyping her up to the max. Keep an alibi that can be checked if need. That way there can be no counterclaims, etc. Plus, it will allow you to focus not on the hurt as such but on the retribution. This will keep you focused and more in control. Remember, knowledge is power. I certainly feel that exposure is required. This is at a time and place you decide, but be aware that the other party's needs the heads up first and then swiftly move across the cheat's network. That way all eyes will be in their direction and they will have issues to deal with, thus lowering their defenses. Yes, divorce sucks, but a life of hell for you and your son is far worse. Healthy people will not stay with dysfunctional ones for very long. I agree with the others now. Blow up the affair with exposure. Bring this fantasy lesbian thing crashing down. It's one thing for her to get the sizzle of some secret fantasy. It's quite another to have friends and family know you're cheating on your husband and child with another woman. She desperately doesn't want the fantasy to end. And just as an aside, gentlemen, we all have the fantasy of having our wives be physically into women, even if just a little. Don't make the fantasy a reality. In a lot of cases, this kind of crap is the result. Be careful what you wish for. You may get it. OP responds. It has been a trying few days for sure. The affair has been exposed. I will get into more details later. Before I posted here, I stupidly sent my wife a link to what I thought was inspirational post. I don't think she cares enough or even remembers what forum it was. But there are a few things that I don't want to mention just yet in the event she stumbles across this thread. To all spouses in my situation, when I first read the advice here, I thought it was ridiculously harsh. Some things, like the 180, can be difficult to implement depending on your temperament. But I can tell you exposing the affair as soon as possible is absolutely critical. The posters here are 100% correct on this. And the sooner the better. OW has been sent running for the hills. She didn't want any part of this. Like you have gathered from the posts, our marriage wasn't strong to begin with. Had it been, this might have been easier to overcome. I have been firm in my willingness to move on, but lately wife has tried to begin emotional manipulation. Like waking me up in the morning by coming upstairs to the guest bedroom where I have been sleeping and telling me she misses me and is sorry. The night before she wanted to move straight from talking about D to how custody is going to work, what days, who lives where, etc. Then later the same day she was back to talking about custody again. So, in 36 hours I had hate, a glimmer of remorse, the sincerity of which I doubt, back to hate again. I admit I wavered when she offered the bit of remorse. I even got to the point of telling her what I would need to move past this, like counseling and other changes. I think the only reason she did this was so that she could gain the upper hand again. Like I said, I will try to keep all updated. I need to focus on my work and health. They have been seriously neglected in the last week. I don't believe the affair was physical, although a doubt will always remain. In terms of divorce or reconcile, the rational side of me knows 100% that I should go for divorce. But there is still that part of me that tells me to sacrifice for my family. How can I balance my need to be loved and respected versus uprooting my family? Maybe this is a false choice, but it is going through my mind. As it stands now, wife has basically said she is not willing to do anything to make the relationship better. We had a long ago scheduled lunch date for Sunday, which I am guessing she will cancel at some point. I was hoping to have a conversation in a public place where emotions can be kept in check. So, a little more background. We have been married for 7 years. Prior to that, she had one long-term relationship of about a year when she was 19 or 20. The love of her life, as she never tires of telling me, every other relationship had gone a few months and then fizzled. So, when I met her, all was great for 3 months. Then I saw a totally new personality. If only I had a time machine. I dealt with her threats to leave, her temper and volatile personality again and again. Then she needed to change her living arrangement, so hey, let's move, and then it was hey, we shouldn't live in sin. I guess at that point I didn't want to be alone, and the rest is history. So much I could start talking about. You all could be billing me by the hour. Where is my strength when I need it? You are right, she has burned this family down. A little, any modicum of effort on her part probably would have had me looking to forgive and move on, but it's not happening. For the most part, yes, we are both strong-willed, but I am very even-tempered. So, anything where I don't agree blows up into a hate-filled tirade on her part. She also says I am controlling. She cites as a recent example me yelling at her to come home when she was still at work around 10:30. At the time, I was merely concerned for her safety, and she took it as a sign of controlling. Another thing I am getting hung up on is I feel ashamed to tell people. To be honest, I don't think family and friends will be all that surprised. Having other people around hasn't been a deterrent to her frequent blow-ups on me. It's more my colleagues and bosses. The majority of people I work with are off-site, like my boss, and co-workers mostly work out of other locations. Did you guys tell your bosses when you were going through this? It's an awkward conversation, but I already can tell I have been dropping the ball work-wise the last week. And I know it will come up eventually. Did you and your family have a good holiday? So, where we are now is that things were obviously very heated and emotions high. We agreed to take 6 weeks just to cool off and focus on our respective careers before we start talking about things like custody, etc. I don't think it would be good to discuss these things when emotions are so high. I am basically living upstairs in our guest bedroom, and it has actually been a bit of a relief to get some distance from her. Maybe not the textbook approach, but it is helping me right now. I am trying my best to avoid her emotional roller coaster. So far, she has made advances towards me, which is unusual for us lately, but more some kind of taboo thing since it looks like we are headed towards divorce. Then she will try to hug me and say, "I do love you," and then an hour or two later she will be saying, "You need to start practicing some things for when you have our son by yourself," all literally within hours of each other. I have not given a reaction to any of these things. No agreement, reciprocation, or disagreement, just trying to stay calm and even-keeled. This is unusual behavior, even by my wife's standards. I am doing my best to ignore it all, saying let's put some distance between us so we can approach what is coming from a rational rather than a vindictive standpoint. I have stopped all but basic communication. There are no overtures. I have also stopped arguing, disagreeing, just trying to create some distance right now. Like I said, if there were no children involved, this would be easier. The urge to protect my child from a breakup is still there, but slowly starting to accept the seemingly inevitable. 2 days later, had a consult with divorce lawyer today. Learned the following as it pertains to my state. Infidelity really doesn't have any bearing unless there are financial implications, like paying money to the mistress. If anything, the courts would most likely be sympathetic to my wife, say she repressed her natural biological urges. Keep in mind I live in the Northeast, very progressive here. 5 to 6K would be my total legal costs, assuming nothing crazy. He felt she may want to get things over quickly once I file to avoid any embarrassment. Now in regard to exposure, I can't get into too much detail other than to say OW knows I am on to her. In terms of job, my wife works for the county. Unlikely they would do anything, but if she lost her job, it would be hard for her to replace, and then I will get REIMED on alimony. Husband, I only have the home number, very hard to reach. There are some other reasons why I am wary to openly contact him. Suffice it to say where I live. One unfounded allegation against me can cause a world of hurt, and I'll leave it at that. Right now, I am keeping my wife placated, not disagreeing with anything, making myself scarce, etc. Yes, she is back to texting up a storm the few times I have been around her. Surprise, surprise, but the look on her face has gone from elation to a look of boredom and or disappointment. Yes, she has also been a worse parent than normal, yelling at our son when he hurt himself when he was playing a little too wildly. Luckily, I was there to be the one to pick up, hold, tell him it's okay. The thought of me not being around all the time is still breaking my heart. Tonight, she said if it wasn't for him, I think our marriage would be a lot stronger. I swallowed, took a deep breath and told her calmly that I didn't appreciate her saying that and please not to say it around me again. Did finally make it out to the gym today. It felt surprisingly good. Have to make a habit of doing that again. I have been having trouble with sleep the last week or so. I have needed a few belts of bourbon to fall asleep some nights. The focus is starting to come back and I feel like I can concentrate a little better at work. I know in my heart it is over, but I feel like she is still trying to manipulate me at times. Anyone know Charlie Brown? When would Lucy say, I am going to hold the football while you kick it, and then yank it away at the last second, causing Charlie Brown to fall over and hurt himself? That has been our relationship in a nutshell, with the football representing her love, affection, commitment to the relationship. She knows she doesn't really have any power over me now, but it doesn't stop her from trying. The bad part for me lately is that she can blow up whenever she wants to. And then she is over it and will go sleep like a baby. For me, I take things more inside where it is hard to get them out of my mind, hence the sleep trouble. I am trying to act rationally in terms of what can I do to have to pay the least amount of money and still get to spend as much time with my son as I possibly can. If that means I have to eat an occasional crap sandwich and avoid the satisfaction of revenge for revenge's sake, then I will do it, although it is really getting to me. 1 week later, sent an appointment request to a therapist today, just for me. Never thought I would do something like that, let alone talk about it on a forum. I committed to this cooling off period, but it is ducking difficult. Again, only thinking about my son and what this is going to mean for his life. We all ate dinner out together tonight. For the most part I did well playing it cool. Knowing, yes knowing, but I am not going to get into it on a public forum. That I am being lied to? Lying to me when I am not even asking where she is. I still am questioning how I acted, how I could have prevented my wife from resuming and heightening this affair. Basically, she took our cooling off period as a license to resume and escalate her cheating without me trying to spoil her fun. Didn't seem like that's what we were agreeing to at the time. It was supposed to be to let tempers cool before we start talking custody, etc. Son's b-day party is this weekend, so I don't want to ruin it for him by doing anything in the next couple of days. Not sure I can make it the full cooling off period before I file. Not really much of an update. Keeping this thread going has been therapeutic for me and I appreciate the replies. Oh, I will also say I get a sick feeling in my stomach every time I see a woman looking at her iPhone. Guess that will be a trigger for me since texting was the catalyst for the affair that finally blew up my marriage. A few months from now when I am looking to date, one bright side I suppose. It is going to be tough for me to deal with since every woman I know seems addicted to those phones and texting. Another week later, she is still very much in the total love phase and lying about it. Talked to the liar today, via phone since I can't stand the sight of her and, as of today at least, which doesn't hold much water. Was very agreeable on theoretical divorce terms. This has been eye-opening to say the least. I went to my MD because I told him I was feeling anxious and I noticed my heartbeat was high. He ended up doing a ducking EKG on me, which I never had before. I was terrified. Who's your emergency contact? I had to think and give the name of my mother, because I knew the cheater wouldn't care. Keep in mind I was there earlier in the year for a physical. Normal BP and heart rate. This time, even though I had lost more weight, 205 for the first time in a long time. My BP and heart rate were off the charts. I was actually kind of scared that something worse was wrong. Doctor ended up saying it's nerves. I wish you good luck and wrote me a script. We are on my wife's insurance, a better plan, and her only concern was how much the EKG will end up costing. This thread has certainly evolved. Even if she begged for our now, there is too much damage. There could never be repair, and she would never allow the things we would need to repair anyway. My head, versus my visceral instincts of rage, is to just exploit her love affair to get her to sign a D as quick as possible. Terms are usually cut and dry in my state unless one side tries to get difficult. Oh, and she is still lying through her teeth. This is counter to most situations, but presenting the evidence to her would not be the best thing for me or for the outcome I want. It would lead to rage and then trying to find the most expensive lawyer she can find and possibly worse. She has already told me she is planning to go for bankruptcy after spending addiction was a huge component of her BPD. I actually cleaned up all her debt at some point and she still managed to open 1,000 cards, including store cards at 22%. It is fully physical and beyond, again can't discuss methods, and she is still denying anything happened. On the plus side, have really been reconnecting with my friends and especially family. And they have been wonderful. We have a long birthday party this weekend for my son, and I know my parents will be at my side the entire time helping me to get through. I can't put on the phony face and tell the easy white lies that she does. 1 week later, yesterday was hard, real hard. As I said, my soon-to-be ex being the liar, she is very easily put on the happy face and pretended all was normal. I looked miserable the entire time and I could tell some of the parents of the other children and especially family who doesn't know picked up on it. I kept it together as best I could, and luckily my kid was so into the activities that he had no clue anything was amiss. I did lose it at one point on her parents. Well, not yelling or anything, when words were exchanged. Wife's father had the nerve to jump in and say everything was my fault. Now this is a guy who abandoned his family for 10 plus years to live with his mistress after he had his family's house foreclosed on because he gave away all his money to support his various conquests. I basically said, "Oh, here comes the family man," chiming in, and let it go at that. Glad I stopped myself from going further, and I admit that remark was pretty petty. Going to see lawyer number 2 tomorrow. The first lawyer I saw, I was a little concerned about his age. He rambled on a few times with stories of his glorious past. Luckily it was a free consult. So going to see a family law practice who specialize in mediation. Wife still claims to want 50-50 custody and doesn't want the house. No way she would ever agree to 50-50 custody if she weren't in the throes of her affair. So, as I said, as painful as it is, I will probably get the best terms as long as I let her have her lover's shoulder to lean on through the process. Taking action, going to doctor, lawyer, therapist, has definitely helped. Sitting back doing nothing is the worst. The wife will be served tomorrow. Signed and paid the retainer today. I am totally taking the high road to get this done as quickly as possible. Could have had her served in front of her co-workers today, but talked to lawyer and decided to have sheriff call her to schedule a time to get served. She was shocked today. Not sad, but shocked. I know it is a long road ahead, but I feel a weight lifting from me. All the years of abuse that I took for the sake of our family. All the "I'm sorry" I accepted only to be heard over and over. Then the sorry stopped and the cheating began. It is over now? Never again. As a sign of how ducked up STBX mind is, she never had a pet growing up. We got a dog and she lived for this dog, loved this dog, cuddled and smooched with the dog. Until a few months ago anyway, her first and only pet. She truly adored her. Words really can't do it justice. To the point where she cried on every trip we took when the dog was in the kennel. Called every day to make sure she was okay. Now she says, "You can keep her, she will be too much bother and is getting old." Keep in mind she just turned 7. And is a small dog, probably not even halfway through her life and still full of energy and love. I am over the relationship, but I feel sorry for my soon-to-be ex. If this continues, I can eventually see her granting me primary custody. She wants nothing to do with her old life. As it is, she is not arguing 50-50 at all. So, no confrontation, no exposure. Enjoy what you have before the OW eventually dumps you. You had someone who overlooked and put up with your many flaws. A home and family that you ran and controlled. Love and stability all around you that you chose to throw away. I can't unmake that choice for you. As heavy as this all is, it's funny because I need my wife not to blow this relationship with the other woman until the ink dries on the divorce papers. I joked with a friend today that we should get them gift certificates so they can go out to dinner and spend time with each other. Did I mention she also spent 2 hours on the phone with an ex-boyfriend recently? Maybe she is already starting to feel insecure in her relationship with OW. 4 to 6 months of no confrontation. 90 days is bare minimum for D in my state. 4 to 6 months more likely. She says she won't move out until divorce is done. Good grief, I need something to look forward to keep me from going off the rails. Vegas anyone. Home at 11 and tiptoed in while I faked being asleep. Not suspicious at all. Now all of a sudden, she knows how to walk quietly in the house. When she wakes up before I do, it sounds like a herd of elephants moving around. Tonight it could be a ballerina moving around. The OW's husband must be a complete fool if he hasn't figured it out for himself by now. Weeks later. Okay, fairly major update. The good news is that the reason I only had access to my mobile is because our computer is in the guest room. I told STBXW, "You are the one who should be banished. Not me. I am sleeping in my own bed and she is in guest room, getting some time and now on the computer while she is still out." I pushed on Monday for the truth that I already knew, and she finally admitted to me that she had slept with OW. Of course, she only said it was once because I kept asking her about one specific day and about how things didn't add up. Still being lied to, but at least she admitted it. And she admitted to kissing when they were in the parking lot. Now here is where I thought I would feel better. But she had no remorse, no sorrow, no guilt. She told me she felt relieved. She also said she's madly in love with other women and it's different than any other relationship. She then said she didn't consider it cheating since it was with a woman. Further, she says she is a lesbian, but only for another woman. I don't know why she told me all this, to be honest. She claims she looked at other women and didn't feel anything, only for another woman. I asked her why other woman wasn't divorcing her husband. She told me she needs more time. Keep in mind the 13 or 14-year age gap here. She then said other woman is wondering why you haven't confronted her yet. Could be more lies for all I know. I couldn't keep silent. I told her the other woman is cake eating and is not going to leave her family and come out of the closet with her. I said, does she feel the same? She does. Why, I asked, then isn't she leaving her family? I don't know. I have been pressuring her, but she's not ready. So, sorry for the quality of the text here, but my mind is racing and fingers are flying. I know I have repeatedly said it, but I am done with her. I am also not going to clean up her mess yet, and will let her be off with her cake-eating lover. Why? I am not going to be plan B. She made clear she wants to spend her life with this woman, but admitted she wasn't sure the other woman would go through with it. I am fortunate that my income has been increasing the last several years, a trend I hope continues. In my state, as in many 10 years also marks a magic spot when you could be on the hook for considerably more in the way of alimony. So best case in this situation is that she would crawl back after other woman dumps her, and we would likely repeat the cycle in a couple years. Only next time she would be entitled to significantly more money. Trust is gone, it will never come back, as is the hurt she caused by her eye rolling when I told her how the doctor ordered an EKG when I went to see him and I was scared. So, I could go to another woman husband, try to blow this up. Maybe they run into each other's arms and off into the sunset. Maybe other woman calls the whole thing off. In any case, I am getting a divorce, and I know that if STBXW thought I blew up her one chance at happiness, she would make my life and the deal living hell, and more importantly, probably go for primary custody. So, I think about confrontation every day, but trying not to do it. Also trying to keep 180 with wife, but it is hard. Today, for instance, I picked my kid up from school and did the whole dinner, bath, bed routine. STBXW calls later and says, "Why didn't you call me so I could say goodnight?" My answer: because I know what you do after work and I am not going to call you while you are getting physical with her. The part that's hard is I know my STBXW is ruining her life. It's like watching a car drive over a cliff. Should I try to stop it? Well, I think I already have tried. Multiple warnings, offering counseling, etc. No, she is in love. She has figured out why none of her other relationships worked. Duh. They were all guys, so I am back to just trying to get this done as fast as possible. She says other woman is waiting for me to confront everyone and then she will tell her husband the truth. Firstly, who knows if that is true? Secondly, this is STBXW mess. I am going to leave her in it, at least until D is finished. As an aside, I don't believe STBXW is a lesbian. I believe the older other woman has done this before, but STBXW thinks it is true love, the likes of which the world has never witnessed. When this relationship blows up, she will go back to a series of short, failed relationships with men. Just my opinion, who knows? Sorry for the rant, very discombobulated tonight, but look forward to your comments. As I finish typing this, STBXW pulled into the driveway and has been sitting texting for 20 minutes. 90% of this affair took place via text between a mid-30s woman and a near 50. Odd world. If another woman is so into her, I wonder why they never talk on phone. I never hear her on her cell and I check our home phone records regularly. It is just texting, constant texting. I asked my kid what he did with mommy yesterday and he said mommy was messaging her friends with her phone. Sometime later, other woman is, as I predicted, refusing to commit. As in leave her family and come out, and I have sensed an on-again off-again kind of stupid high school vibe going on between the two of them. So STBXW went out and had unprotected time with an old boyfriend, then went back to OW and they have been full on again. She even admitted to sleeping with the ex-boyfriend and was very cavalier about it. Both my psychologist and a member of my family who is a mental health professional and has known STBXW a long time are extremely concerned about her. I am too, but only in the sense that she is my child's mother. As for me, work is going much better. I would say I am about 80% of the way to being back to where I was before this started. I have had a couple nights out with a friend who is single, so that has also been nice. Just moving forward, I have a ton of paperwork to do after my trip to get this divorce rolling. 3 months later, In spite of some detractors, not exposing has worked to my advantage so far. STBXW head is so far in the clouds that close family friends who know her well are concerned she might be in a manic state. It runs in her family. Long story short, she is so distracted by the affair that I am about to finalize the divorce details. And they are very favorable to me. I used her distraction and predilection for short-term gain to my advantage, and things are looking good for me at this point. After everything is final, I will reassess, but will continue to do what is in my best interest and the interest of my child. In my case, where R was ruled out very early on, using the affair to my advantage has worked. I hope others read this and know that this could be possible for them as well if they are in my situation. 1 month later, final update. It's over. No alimony. I keep my house and assets. Not liable for her debts. 50/50 custody and minimal child support. I use the fog against her. Best yet, I still have risk of exposure as a tool to protect my child. This other woman wants no part of being outed. Just offering something to think about. I sincerely mean no disrespect. Every one of these cases is different. For me, using this affair against my now ex-wife worked. The results speak for themselves. At this point I almost feel sorry for her. Her crazy spending has continued unabated. I won't be there to bail her out anymore. I put the child support on direct deposit so there won't be any "can I get it early this week and pay you back blah blah blah." She also claimed about 2 months ago that the other woman was getting divorced, that she had chosen her over her husband. Well, family court records are public in my state. No divorce has been filed. Old lesbian stretching out some steady action from someone way younger. That's all this is. I will have some measure of satisfaction when it falls down on her. But now I really just don't care that much. I am more concerned with finally setting up my online dating profiles and getting back out there. Like, comment, you can change what happens next. You can't change what happened in the past. Once you realize that, a lot of doors will open.